One of the biggest fish in the free agent market is now off the board. Jacob deGrom has signed a 5-year deal with the New York Rangers, $185 million, the total value of the deal. It is a massive deal. Jacob deGrom, one of the best pitchers in baseball. However, there are some concerns about him. Doug and I were going to cover this signing, what the Rangers are getting, what's going to happen with deGrom, the concerns, the pros and cons of this deal, and also where do the Mets pivot, because that's also another big thing of this. So let's get straight into it. My name is Derrik. I'm here with Doug. You're watching Bleacher, Brawls, and let's get straight into it. First things first with this whole deGrom thing is we know he's one of the best pitchers on the planet. But he does have some injury concerns, and he's also turning 35. So I want to ask Doug, we know he's great pitcher, but how much do those, as if you're looking at this from a Rangers perspective, how worried would you be about those injuries?
Man, the Rangers go out and they get their ace, right? They get that guy that's, you're going to say is the ace, right? But like you said, there's a bunch of injury concerns with him. Over the last in 2020, 2021, and 2022, he only has about 200 innings pitched, right? So he only has about maybe a little over 200 innings pitched for 3 years, when that's pretty much what you're going to get out of him in a good season, right? From 2017, 2018, 2019, he had 201, 217, 204 innings pitched. So you want to see deGrom go out there and give you 200 innings, but he hasn't done it since 2019. So that's a big question mark that, the Rangers are going to have to be okay with. If he doesn't, if he gets hurt and can't go 200 innings,
Oh, yeah, it's 100% a big question mark. But just like some of the things for deGrom, remember the 2021 season, he was like unbelievable. He had a 108 ERA in the 92 innings he did pitch. He was having an all-time season, not just like he was having an all-time season. Injuries derailed it. This year, he was good with the exception of September. I think he had like a 6 ERA in September. So there's a couple questions there. But overall, it's Jacob deGrom, right? Two-time Cy Young winner. Was in the Cy Young conversation in 2020 as well.
Dude, he was in the Cy Young conversation last year. He finished ninth. He finished ninth with only 92 innings last year. He finished ninth.
Exactly. I don't think he pitched after June last year.
Crazy.
or maybe after whatever. It's ridiculous. Like, that just shows how good he is, but he has to stay healthy.
Could you imagine a good pitcher like pitching the whole year and getting 10th and being like, oh, who got 9th? Oh, some guy who only had 92 innings.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's literally what it is. And you start looking at the Rangers and their rotation. Their number one guy was Martin Perez. And Martin Perez was very good last year, but us as Red Sox fans, we know he can struggle. And now Martin Perez, we'll see whether the whole kind of transformation into a good pitcher will continue into 2023. But, maybe it doesn't. And getting a guy like Jacob deGrom, if you can keep him healthy, that's probably the best pitcher in baseball, or at least like number 2 or 3.
Yeah, like I said, the Texas Rangers went out, spent all this money, and they want their ace, right? So now they got it. Last year they got 2 years ago they got John Gray, whatever it was.
Last year they got John Gray. Yeah.
Yep, they've picked up Martin Perez, so they're starting to put together a piece, a pretty good rotation here. That's, who's going to pitch opening day? Yeah, it's Jacob deGrom, yeah. Right? So you have deGrom, you have Gray. Here's their depth chart. Gray, Jake Odorizzi, Martin Perez, Dane Dunning, Cole Ragans, and Glenn Otto, right? Those are the guys in the conversation. Probably only 4 of those guys are going to pan out and be in, this is assuming they don't add anyone else.
Yeah.
But it's a solid rotation, but it's not a. You look at some of the other rotations, and it, especially in that AL West, and you're like, even with deGrom,
you're not beating that Houston rotation. You're just not.
It's still a 3rd or a 4th best, depending on.
Seattle's got a really good rotation. The Angels could have a good rotation. Like the only team, like the only team that's not going to have a good rotation in that division potentially is going to be Oakland. Like
right.
that division, Houston really good rotation, Seattle really good rotation.
Yeah.
The Rangers could have a good rotation, and the Angels could have a good rotation.
Yeah.
That's going to be the division full of pitching. But no, I think for the Rangers though, they still have other options to bring in like a number 2 starter, maybe a Nathan Eovaldi. He's from Texas, be a little bit of homecoming for him. There's also other options out there as well.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see which way they go, or if they just settle on deGrom and say we're good with him, and maybe they trade for a starter. But it's clearly a big addition. I do want to move on though to the New York Mets side of things. It's a big loss for the Mets, obviously. Rumors are they're already kind of turning the page to Justin Verlander and then Carlos Rodon as a backup option.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that? Because, Justin Verlander, yes, he won a Cy Young last year, was amazing, but he also pitched a full season as well. I know in a 6-man rotation in Houston instead of a 5-man rotation, but still pitched 175 innings last year.
Yeah, I still think deGrom would have been a better fit going back to the Mets, just because, like, the Mets the Mets know everyone knows who he is, right? But he's been in the organization for so long, and it's like, your guy, right? But the Mets are like, well, the last 3 years we're paying you all this money and you haven't been healthy. So it's like, do we keep on doing that? Obviously, he's not going to take less money to pitch, right? He's not going to be like, oh, well, I'll take less money because I was hurt. No, that's not happening. So the Mets, if you're going to spend all this money, are you going to spend this, roughly, just ballparking the same money for Verlander for, maybe 2 years, or deGrom with the 5-year contract he got, and like you said, deGrom will be 40 by the end of that or something. He's 35 now. So yeah, the Mets are definitely, you have to assume that now Verlander is the favorite to go to the Mets, because the Mets need to replace deGrom, and they're going to.
Yeah. It seems like a 2-year deal for Verlander would make sense too, because that matches him up year-wise with Max Scherzer. Also, the Mets Chris Bassett's still a free agent. That could be another lost piece for them.
Yeah,
you lose deGrom and Bassett. Obviously, they can go out and get Verlander and maybe another guy, but at the peak, you might lose a little bit of value, because deGrom at his peak is better than any other pitcher in the big leagues. So where it ends up for the Mets, their rotation, that's to be seen. The Mets, I think, had their best shot at winning anything this year, and they didn't. I mean, maybe they'll have another shot next year, obviously, but I don't know if it's going to be as good of a shot considering the fact that you don't have Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, but if you get the same production that deGrom was giving you, and Verlander's, they're 1 and 2, they're the best, right? So if they get a Verlander, they might be even better than last year, because you're getting essentially double the production, because you're
what I'm talking about is like in the playoffs, like when it comes down to you pitch this one game, like in the wild card series. Like
did deGrom didn't pitch in the.
Yeah, he did. He pitched game 2.
Oh yeah, duh. What am I thinking? Sorry.
Yeah, shut the Padres down pretty much.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's what I'm saying though. Like that, when you get to the playoffs and they're both healthy and they're both at their peak, probably take deGrom. I'm not saying that Verlander is a bad option at all. He's not. Like you said, they're 1 and 2. But your best chance, especially considering now you might lose Bassett as well, best chance might have been last year.
Yeah, I don't think there. But so where I was going with that is with Verlander, banking on him pitching a whole year instead of only 90-something innings from deGrom, you might win a couple more games, and then you're not 101, and you don't have the same amount of wins as the Braves this year if you had Verlander for the whole year. Yeah. So, I'm sure that's the Mets took that into account in their thoughts. If they're going to spend the money, they want to bank on someone pitching 200 innings.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then going back to the Rangers side of things real quick, like they're spending money, and like we saw Seager, Semien last year, plus some other pieces. Now deGrom, who's next for the Rangers, right? That's essentially what the question is. Who's next? Because I don't think they're done spending. Obviously, we're going to have some big questions with the Mets, all that stuff. So it's a great place to wrap it up. One last thing, Doug. Do you think it's Verlander going to the Mets, or do you think the Mets pull kind of a spin the loop a little bit and kind of go and get like a Carlos Rodon?
No, I think Verlander is going to the Mets. But I do want to just a little note about the Rangers, right? With deGrom, I think they're still only third place team still. They went 68 and 94. Let's say you get 30 starts from deGrom. So you get 30 starts, right? Let's say he wins 18 of them, because good pitchers, you just could probably bank on getting 18 wins at least, right? So that puts them at 80.
It's still not going to be it's still not going to be enough to pass the Astros.
You're probably going to take a couple more games from the Astros this year. You're going to take a couple more games from the Mariners this year. So maybe it evens out that division a little bit. Except a little bit.
Also, if the Angels have a year where they're consistent for the whole year instead of falling off the face of the earth in June.
Right. So that could take a bunch of wins away from the Astros. So maybe that's like the thinking is maybe we just need to take enough wins away from the Astros or Mariners that, only one team from our division is a lock to, from winning the division, and the wild card could be a toss up,
Yeah, and now there also you have the more balanced schedule this year as well. So
true. I forgot about that.
But I was just saying, it just throws kind of a little bit more wrenches and things where we talk about teams and teams going for it, and then the American League is going to be stacked next year because you have all the teams that were already good last year. And if a team like the Rangers gets better, if a team like the Angels gets better, maybe a team like Baltimore gets better, maybe the Red Sox get better, maybe the White Sox are better, maybe it's the Twins that get better. Like the AL could be an outrageous next year when it comes to the wild card races.
Yeah.
So that's also interesting. But I think that's a good. I think that's a good place.
One last question I got to get in. Yep. So the Rangers last year made moves for Gray, Semien, and
Seager.
There we go. Do they make another big bat splash this year? Probably not another pitching splash, right? Like a Jacob deGrom-esque. But do they make like an equivalent bat, like not for the length of Semien or Seager, but someone.
I think they're done on big splashes. I think they'll drop to that second and third tier free agents.
Okay.
Still really good players and can really make your team better, but won't cost as much, but you won't get that elite production either.
Yeah.
I think that's fair for them. All right, great place to wrap this thing up, though. Make sure to check out all the links in the description, Bleacher Brawls website, podcast, Instagram, and Twitter, all the good stuff. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever we post. Leave a comment. What do you think about this signing for the Rangers? How do you think it affects the Mets? Anything that you guys want to let us know, leave them in the comments. I'll try and reply to as many as possible, if not all of them. Great place to wrap it up. For Doug, I'm Derek. Thanks for tuning in to Bleacher Brawls, and we'll see you next time.
Beat the Astros.